Hi, I'm Delaney. I never imagined I'd be raising a child at 60, especially not under these circumstances. The call came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon while I was arranging flowers in my living room. Mrs. Harrison, this is Officer Jenkins from the Springfield Police Department. We found your granddaughter at the East Side Family Shelter. I nearly dropped the phone. My granddaughter? There must be some mistake. My daughter Vanessa doesn't have children. Ma'am, we have a 3-month-old infant. Documentation in the diaper bag lists Vanessa Harrison as the mother and you as next of kin. The shelter staff called us when they found the baby apparently abandoned. I gripped the edge of the table. Abandoned? Where's Vanessa? That's what we're trying to determine, ma'am. Could you come down to the shelter? We need to verify some information and determine temporary placement for the child. 40 minutes later, I stood in the shelter office staring at a tiny bundle with Vanessa's eyes. The social worker, Miss Rodriguez, handed me a crumpled note. This was in the diaper bag. It appears to be from your daughter. The handwriting was unmistakably Vanessa's. Mom, I can't do this. Her name is Sophie. I'm sorry. When was she left here? I asked, my voice barely steady. Around 6 a.m. this morning, Miss Rodriguez said, adjusting her glasses. Security footage shows a woman matching your daughter's description. She spoke briefly with our night attendant, claiming she needed temporary assistance, then disappeared while the attendant was processing intake forms. Officer Jenkins, a stocky man with kind eyes, leaned against the wall. Mrs. Harrison, do you have any idea where your daughter might be? No, I hesitated, remembering the last time Vanessa visited. She mentioned a boyfriend, Richard something. They were talking about moving to Colorado. Richard Mercer? Officer Jenkins straightened. Tall guy, dark hair, drives a blue Mustang? That sounds right. You know him? We've had some dealings with Mr. Mercer. Mostly minor offenses, but he's known to associate with drug dealers in the area. Miss Rodriguez cleared her throat. Mrs. Harrison, we need to discuss Sophie's immediate placement. Given the circumstances, would you be willing to take temporary custody while we locate your daughter? I looked down at Sophie, now awake and staring at me with curious eyes. Of course I'll take her. She's my granddaughter. It's not that simple, Officer Jenkins said. There's paperwork, home inspections, temporary guardianship hearings. Then let's start now, I interrupted. Whatever it takes. 3 hours later, I was buckling a borrowed car seat into my sedan, with a diaper bag and temporary custody papers on the passenger seat. Delaney? A voice called from across the parking lot. It was Margaret, my neighbor of 15 years. Is everything all right? Whose baby is that? I sighed. It's a long story, Margaret. This is Sophie, my granddaughter. Margaret's eyes widened. Vanessa's child? I didn't even know she was pregnant. Where is she? That's what I'd like to know, I said, my voice hardening. She left Sophie at a shelter this morning with nothing but a note. Oh my God, Margaret gasped. That's terrible. What are you going to do? Right now, I'm taking Sophie home. After that, I glanced at Officer Jenkins, who was watching from the shelter entrance. After that, I'm going to make sure she never has the chance to abandon her child again. 18 months passed with no word from Vanessa. I'd hired a private investigator who tracked her and Richard to Denver, but they disappeared again before authorities could make contact. Meanwhile, Sophie was thriving under my care, and the court had granted me full legal guardianship. Mrs. Harrison, a moment, please, Principal Davis called as I picked Sophie up from daycare. I wanted to discuss Sophie's development. She's showing remarkable cognitive abilities for her age. Really? I smiled, watching Sophie stack blocks with intense concentration. Yes, she's already recognizing letters and simple words. That's exceptional for a child not yet 2. Principal Davis lowered her voice. Has there been any contact from her mother? I shook my head. Nothing. And frankly, that's for the best. Have you considered what you'll tell Sophie when she's old enough to ask questions? Every day, I admitted. I won't lie to her, but I won't let Vanessa's actions define Sophie's life either. That evening, while Sophie slept, my phone rang with an unknown number. Hello? Mom? Vanessa's voice was raspy, unfamiliar. It's me. My grip tightened on the phone. 18 months, Vanessa. 18 months without a word. I know, I'm sorry. I wasn't well. Richard and I... Don't. I cut her off. Don't you dare mention that man's name. Do you have any idea what you've done? Sophie is walking and talking now. She calls me Nana. Sophie? Vanessa's voice broke. You kept her name? It was the only decent thing you left her with. Silence stretched between us. Finally, Vanessa spoke. I want to see her. Absolutely not. She's my daughter. A daughter you abandoned at a homeless shelter. You forfeited that right, Vanessa. Mom, please, she begged. I've changed. I'm clean now. Richard's gone. I'm working at a diner in Millfield. Millfield? That's less than an hour away. You've been this close and never contacted us? I was ashamed, Vanessa whispered. I still am. But I want to make it right. Some things can't be made right, I said, my voice ice cold. The courts granted me permanent guardianship 6 months ago. You were served papers at your last known address. What? No, I never received anything. That's not my problem. If you want to see Sophie, you'll need to petition the court. And they'll want to know where you've been and why you abandoned your 3-month-old baby. Officer Jenkins, now a friend who checked in regularly, arrived the next morning. Vanessa called you? This changes things, Delaney. How? She abandoned Sophie. The court already ruled. Yes, but if she petitions for visitation or custody, they'll consider her current situation. If she's truly clean and stable now... She left her baby at a shelter? I hissed, mindful of Sophie playing nearby. How could anyone consider giving her custody? The courts generally favor reunification when possible, he explained gently. But don't worry. Given the circumstances, she'd have supervised visitation at best, for quite some time. I won't let her disrupt Sophie's life only to disappear again when things get difficult, I said firmly. Margaret joined us, bringing coffee. What if you offered controlled visitation on your terms? That way you maintain authority while the court reviews the case. Officer Jenkins nodded. That's actually sensible. It would look cooperative on your part. Fine, I conceded, already formulating a plan. Tell Vanessa she can see Sophie, but only with conditions. 16 years later, Sophie graduated high school as valedictorian, with a full scholarship to pre-med at Stanford. Vanessa had come and gone from her life several times, always promising to be better, always disappearing when her latest relationship demanded priority. Sophie had learned to keep her expectations low. You didn't tell me she was coming, Sophie said, spotting Vanessa across the graduation venue. I didn't know, I replied honestly. We haven't spoken in 3 years, not since she borrowed money for rent and disappeared with that bartender, Sophie finished. I remember. Dr. Martin, Sophie's mentor from the hospital volunteering program, approached us. Sophie, congratulations! Stanford's lucky to have you. Thank you, Dr. Martin, Sophie beamed. I couldn't have done it without your recommendation. Nonsense. Your work in our program was exemplary. You have natural surgical instincts. Vanessa sauntered over, her face showing premature aging despite being only 43. My baby, the future doctor. I always knew you'd do great things. Dr. Martin extended her hand. You must be very proud. Sophie is exceptional. Of course I am. She gets her brains from my side, Vanessa laughed, ignoring how Sophie stiffened. Actually, Sophie said quietly, I get my determination from my grandmother, who never abandoned me. The air froze between us. Dr. Martin, sensing tension, excused herself. Sophie, Vanessa's smile faltered. That's not fair. I've explained about my postpartum depression, the addiction issues. Which explains the first time, maybe, Sophie interrupted. Not the other 5 times you've walked in and out of my life when it suited you. I'm your mother. No, Sophie's voice was steel. You're my biological contributor. Grandma is my mother in every way that matters. Vanessa's face contorted. This is your doing, she hissed at me. You've poisoned her against me. I've never lied to her, I replied calmly. Unlike you. I'm clean now. I've been clean for 8 months. I have a good job at the hospital cafeteria. I came to tell you both I'm getting my life together. Sophie crossed her arms. The hospital? Which one? Memorial. I started in February. That's my hospital, Sophie said, eyes narrowing. Where I volunteer 3 times a week. How is it I've never seen you? Vanessa's gaze shifted. Different shifts, probably. Or maybe, Sophie said. You're lying again. I don't need this, Vanessa snapped, grabbing her purse. I came to celebrate my daughter's achievement, not to be attacked. You came because you need something, I said. You always do. What is it this time, Vanessa? Money? A place to stay? Go to hell, both of you, Vanessa shouted, drawing stares. You think you're so perfect? I made one mistake. One? Sophie laughed bitterly. Let's count them. Abandonment, that's 1. Disappearing for 18 months, that's 2. Coming back only to leave again for the boyfriend in Texas, 3. Stealing grandma's jewelry, 4. Shall I continue? I don't have to listen to this. Vanessa pushed past us, stumbling into Dr. Martin's husband, who was carrying drinks. The collision sent Punch flying across his expensive suit. You crazy bitch! Vanessa screamed, shoving Dr. Martin's husband hard enough that he fell back against a table. Security quickly intervened as Vanessa continued screaming obscenities. I'm pressing charges, Dr. Martin's husband stated firmly as security restrained Vanessa. Assault and public disturbance. She's not worth it, Sophie said, helping him up. She'll just play victim again. But Vanessa had crossed a line. As security escorted her out, she threatened, This isn't over. I'll show you all who the real victim is. The years passed quickly. Sophie excelled in medical school, eventually specializing in cardiothoracic surgery. I watched with pride as she became the woman I always knew she could be, despite Vanessa's periodic disruptions. Grandma, you won't believe who was admitted last night, Sophie said during our weekly dinner. Now 36, she was the youngest attending surgeon at Memorial Hospital. Who? I asked, serving pasta. Vanessa. She needs valve replacement surgery. She's been assigned to my service. I set down the serving spoon. That can't be coincidence. It's not. She specifically requested me, Sophie said. Apparently, she's been following my career. She knew I was at Memorial. You don't have to take her case, I said firmly. Actually, I do. She's high risk and I'm the most qualified surgeon for this procedure. Sophie sighed. Don't worry, I'll maintain professional boundaries. Does she know you're aware of her admission? Not yet. I've reviewed her case, but my resident did the initial assessment. The next morning, I accompanied Sophie to the hospital. We decided I should be present for the initial consultation to prevent Vanessa from manipulating the situation. Dr. Martin, now chief of surgery, met us outside Vanessa's room. Sophie, are you sure about this? I can reassign the case. I'm sure, Sophie said. It's just another surgery. We entered to find Vanessa looking frail in the hospital bed. At 61, she appeared 20 years older, her body ravaged by decades of hard living. Sophie! Vanessa's face lit up, then fell when she saw me. Oh, you brought her. Mrs. Harrison, I'm Dr. Sophie Harrison, Sophie said formally. I'll be performing your valve replacement tomorrow morning. Don't be so clinical, honey. I'm your mother. Vanessa smiled weakly. No, Sophie corrected. You're my patient, and I need to discuss your surgical options. Vanessa's smile faded. After all these years, you're still holding a grudge? I was sick, Sophie. I had issues. This isn't about grudges, I interjected. This is about maintaining professional boundaries. Stay out of this, Mother, Vanessa snapped. Sophie, please. I'm dying. This surgery, the doctor said my chances aren't good. That's correct, Sophie confirmed, reviewing the chart. Your heart has sustained significant damage from prolonged stimulant abuse. The surgery carries substantial risks. And if I don't have it? 6 months, maybe less. Vanessa's eyes welled with tears. Then this might be our last chance to make peace. Sophie, I know I failed you, but I've always loved you. Dr. Harrison, a nurse interrupted. Your resident needs you for a consult. I'll be right back, Sophie said, excusing herself. Once alone with me, Vanessa's demeanor changed instantly. You must be loving this. Finally got everything you wanted. What I wanted was for my daughter to be a mother to her child, I replied evenly. No, you wanted Sophie for yourself. You never gave me a real chance. You had countless chances. You squandered every one. Vanessa leaned forward. Well, here's what's going to happen. After this surgery, I'm filing for familial support. Sophie makes good money now, and I'm entitled to care from my daughter. Even now you're plotting, I said, disgusted. Sophie doesn't owe you anything. The law says differently. Blood matters, Delaney. When Sophie returned, I pulled her aside and revealed Vanessa's intentions. The next morning, Sophie entered Vanessa's room with Dr. Martin and a hospital administrator. What's all this? Vanessa asked nervously. Mrs. Harrison, given our personal history, I've decided to recuse myself from your case, Sophie announced. Dr. Martin will perform your surgery instead. What? No! I want you! You're the best! That would be unethical, given what you told my grandmother about your plans to exploit our biological connection for financial gain. Vanessa's face contorted with rage. You can't prove I said anything. It's her word against mine. Actually, the administrator said, as we explained in your admission paperwork, all rooms have monitoring systems for patient safety. Your conversation was recorded as part of standard protocol. That's an invasion of privacy, Vanessa shouted. No, it's hospital policy, clearly outlined in the forms you signed, Sophie explained calmly. Furthermore, I've filed for a formal restraining order based on your documented history of harassment and your stated intentions to exploit our relationship. You can't do this. I'm your mother. No, Sophie said firmly. You're a patient who attempted to manipulate and exploit a doctor. Dr. Martin is excellent and will provide the best possible care. But our personal relationship ends today, permanently and legally. As we walked out, Vanessa screamed threats and obscenities until security was called. The restraining order was granted that afternoon. The surgery proceeded successfully under Dr. Martin's skilled hands, but Vanessa would never again have the opportunity to disrupt our lives. Do you think I did the right thing? Sophie asked as we drove home. You maintained your integrity while protecting yourself legally. That's always the right thing, I assured her. I've spent so many years wondering why she couldn't love me enough to stay, Sophie admitted. Now I realize it was never about me at all. No, I agreed. It was always about her. Sophie smiled faintly. You know what's ironic? If she'd actually been a mother to me, I probably wouldn't have become a surgeon. Your support made that possible. Sometimes, I said, the best revenge is simply living well, on your own terms. What would you have done in my position? Would you have taken in an abandoned grandchild, or made different choices along the way? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life family stories.